Hello, everyone. Welcome to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Bennington College. My name is Xiomara Giordano. I am the Associate Director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Bennington College. I use she, her, they, them, ella pronouns. I identify as Afro-Indígena from the Caribbean, and I'm glad to have you all here to have a few moments to talk with me and to hear what diversity, equity, and inclusion is at Bennington College, as well as the ways that this office supports students and faculty and staff on campus. Today, we are joined by two members of our wonderful, invaluable staff. And so I'll allow you to get to know them through their own introductions. Bailey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Bailey Fox. I'm the Student Life Coordinator. My pronouns are she, they, and I was also a graduate from here, so I graduated last year.
Hi everyone, I'm Cristina Perez Ayala. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions at Bennington College. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico. I have been here at the college for 1 full year, and I work with students both within the US as well as students from Centro America, Sudamerica, the Caribbean, Mexico, Canada, and I think that's it. Nice to see you, everybody.
Wonderful. So today I just want to give you all an opportunity to have a better understanding of Bennington, DEI at Bennington, and the work that we're doing here to support students. I'm going to share my screen. As I mentioned, my name is Xiomara Giordano, and this is the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, where we are cultivating safety and belonging on campus. That's my primary focus. That's what I want to make sure happens for students, for staff, and for faculty, and for all of our community members, right? So when I am thinking about things on this campus and what makes this campus feel safe and equitable and inclusive, I'm thinking about Nate from Buildings and Grounds. I'm also thinking about Cristina in admissions, and I'm thinking about students, and I'm thinking about other people, because if we're all feeling safe, we can be our best selves, our whole selves, and be as successful as we need to be. So what is DEI? So a lot of people are confused by what DEI is. And when I speak to people about what DEI is, what I hear is, oh, well, you like police identities. And that is not what I do. That is absolutely not what I'm doing. So what I do in DEI, so this is actually like a very literal definition of DEI, right? So diversity is the ways in which people differ. Equity is fair treatment, access and opportunity, and advancement for all people, right? And inclusion is a variety of people have power and a voice and decision-making and authority, right? So it's creating agency. So what I want to do is make sure that everyone here has the equal access. Accessibility is a huge part of the DEI work, being sure that people can access spaces, opportunities, and also, academic spaces and thought processes. We want you all to be thought partners here. So that's all part of what we're doing here in this office, right? And then when I think of DEI, I think of it in this way, right? So if we are doing it right, if we're ticking the boxes and we're making sure that the right combinations of people are getting the right amount of access and they're feeling included and safe, then we create belonging in this space. That's ideal. That's what we aim for. We aim for everyone to really fully feel valued and completely part of this space. College is, I say this often, and anybody who comes to my office for office hours will hear this. College, this institution, any college, is an incubator for the world that I want to live in, right? And so I want to live in a world where everybody can be wholly who they are, a world where they can speak the languages that make them comfortable, a world where they can say the things that make them, they're passionate about and they feel are valuable to share in the world, a world where you can show up as your whole self, whether that's, in any kind of dress, in any, kind of state, and still be valued no matter what. That's the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world that is multicultural and multi-ethnic and as plural and beautiful as possible, because all of these things have beautiful interconnections. And so that's what we aim for here at Bennington. So we're also an anti-racist institution. Bennington College has taken on the charge of becoming an anti-racist institution. We've created a president's working group on anti-racism. And they are meeting and they have met to work towards initiatives to move our college forward. And so while we use the term diversity, equity, and inclusion, we also use the model of IDEA, right? So it's more like inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism, or accessibility. Both of those things can be used interchangeably, but all of those things are important. I think it's really important that we share a common language. So when I say anti-racism, I want you to understand what I mean. So what does it mean to be an anti-racist, right? Kendi writes, to be anti-racist is to think that nothing is behaviorally wrong or right, inferior or superior with any of the racial groups. Whenever an anti-racist sees individuals behaving positively or negatively, the anti-racist sees exactly that. Individuals behaving positively or negatively, not representatives of whole races. To be anti-racist is to de-racialize behavior, to remove the tattooed stereotype from every racialized body. Behavior is something that humans do, not races do. And so that is really a linchpin of the anti-racism that we're looking for and that we're moving towards, is seeing people as they are and the values of everybody's contribution, and not connecting inherent benefits or deficits, right? We're not using a deficit model when we're thinking about any other human. We're looking at everybody as beautiful individuals who bring into the space their lived experiences, their own capacities to change things and to make differences. And we believe at Bennington that each and every student has a capacity to make the world a better place. And each and every student will bring something to this space that is valuable and necessary. So what do I do? What does this office do, right? We do trainings on diversity topics for students, faculties, and staff. We support initiatives to create community for affinity groups. So an affinity group can be based on your identity, or it can be based on your religion, or it can be based on your just intrinsic hobbies and things that make you happy. So we really do try and create spaces where people can feel seen and can express themselves with like-minded folks. And so if we can support any of those initiatives, we try to do those things. We plan and support affinity events, speakers, and opportunities. We act as facilitators for bias-based complaints or concerns for students, faculty, and staff. We hold office hours for community members to discuss ideas, plans, thoughts, concerns. We act as advocate for community needs. We work to connect students to resources on campus and within the greater campus community. And we maintain a BIPOC pantry for basic resources. So in this office where I am right now, you see little windows, we have a BIPOC pantry, and that we store things like personal care needs, soap, etc. And any student who identifies as BIPOC can come into this office and say, I need the following things. They don't even have to ask. The door is open. You can go in and get the things that you need. I have menstrual products, bath products, face mask for using in classes and travel. So those things. And then I also maintain the EAC space. So this ODI resource space is my office, and the exterior space can be used for gatherings, for meetings, for any kind of event that happens. So we have conversations, and we're working towards creating other spaces where groups can come together and have conversations and do important work that builds healthy communication, healthy conversation. That's what we're aiming for here. Who is ODI? So our office members are clearly this Alfredo Medina, who is Dr. Medina is the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And he is the policy side of our office, but always open to meeting with students, having conversations, speaking to parents who have concerns. He holds office hours weekly. And he's always available via email. Like anytime you have a question, Dr. Medina is very, very excited to to kind of connect with students. He always wants to be sure that students know he's there and that he's available. Then there's me. And I am the student-facing side. So I am typically the person that would meet with you if you have a question, if you're like, Xiomara, I've had a bad day. If you're a Spanish speaker and you just want to sit and shoot the breeze with me in Spanish, we can do that. I also speak French poorly. I speak Brazilian Portuguese. Okay, not great, but I'm willing to do it. And I speak Tzotzil, which is an indigenous language, a Mayan language. I've never met another human who speaks Tzotzil. So if you speak Tzotzil, please come meet with me. But I do love to sit with people and just have conversations, have a cup of tea, think about planning schedules, because I know that all of this can be overwhelming, right? College can be overwhelming. I am a first generation student. I'm a first generation everything. No one in my family has even an idea of what I do today. And so I know that navigating this space without having prior knowledge can be overwhelming. If you feel like there's something about, like you want to connect with people who connect with your identity in another way, right? So you can absolutely reach out and say, Xiomara, I want to meet with other people from, Latin America so that we can create community, or I want to meet with other queer folk, or I want to, whatever that is, please use my office and me as a resource. I've been at the college now for 3 years, so I have a pretty good idea of people at the college, and I can tell you that if I don't know, which there are many things I don't know, because that's true, I will connect you to a person who does know. So we do have at the college a group for first generation students called FLOW. So that's first year low income students. It's a very large group of students. They really do a great job of supporting each other. The person who handles FLOW for the most part is my colleague Svobo, and she does a wonderful job making sure that there are events that are planned, ways that you can connect and get to know each other, and also supports like the Flow Pantry, the opportunities to meet for study breaks during the term, as well as other special events that kind of help students connect. And lastly, in our office is Melissa Smith. Melissa Smith is our assistant. She's really a wonderful human, super gentle, really understanding, very funny. A history major, so knows a lot about history, and so this is our office. Our office is small, but it is big in heart and purpose. We are all committed to doing this work in the most real way we can. And I will share with you that my mantra this coming academic year is intentionality. I plan and I hope to do everything with intention, including serving and connecting with students. I hope that each and every one of you take the opportunity during orientation. If you see me, stop me. Xiomara, I saw you on this air meet and I want to speak to you. Tell me a fun fact about yourself. I'm really good at dad jokes. I know really awful jokes. Please talk to me. Let me know if you're feeling nervous or scared, or you have a need, even if it's something small. Like, Xiomara, I just need to sit in your office quietly. Just let me know and we'll make it work, because this is a lot of moving parts. College is new. There's a lot of moving parts here. And we want to make sure that we're meeting you where you need to be met. That's my work. 100% of my work is making sure that you know that you belong here, because you do. Each and every one of you belong here. So we have a website, this diversity, equity, and inclusion website. I did a screen grab so that you knew that you were on the right page when you got there. And there are interesting, information there that you can see and connect to. One of my favorite things is our vision statement and our statement for institutional pluralism and inclusion. So the college affirms the intersecting identities of all its community members, students, faculty, staff, and alumni, and recognizes their contributions to the vitality of our unique living and learning environment. The college's approach to pluralism and inclusivity, both as fields of inquiry and practice, is to prioritize flexible thought and to invite the examination of access, value, and power through its institutional policies and areas of study. So I think that's a pretty cool statement. I think that it really does speak to how the institution feels about who's here and how the people here show up, as well as understanding that we all show up differently. Bennington is an institution that really values queerness, and queerness not as a sexual orientation, but queerness as a personal orientation. People who queer the paradigm, people who move against the current. That's the way that this space has become what it has become over all this time. So the final thing I wanted to share in my little PowerPoint situation is resources. So we have a really robust resource page that's connected to the diversity, equity, and inclusion page on the Bennington website. And this is a good place for you to go if you are interested in deep diving into a subject that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So let's say you want to do more research on ethnicity and how that has kind of connected. There are books there, like links to books, links to articles, journal articles, scholarly work that have been done by alums, scholarly work that have been done by people who have taught at Bennington. And so this is a really huge database that has been procured over years, and it's been a collaboration between our office, the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the library to create this really beautiful repository. And I encourage everyone to take time and think about it. We all have spaces where we have to learn more about what is going on, right? So we hear something, we all have what I call literacy moments that we need, where we're like, hey, somebody talk to me about this thing, right? Somebody talk to me about being, multiracial, and I'm not really sure about what are the implications of multiracialism or what that means. Go into this space, do the research, look at it, and then come back and ask questions. Say, hey, can I schedule some time with you to talk about, the impact of, this specific issue, the disaggregation of gender and sexuality. Can I talk to you about that? I am glad to sit down and have that conversation with you. Because when we all understand each other more clearly, we can do a better job of supporting each other and of being there for each other, right? It's not always going to be easy. You're going to butt up against a lot of difference. My encouragement is educate yourself on difference and then come back to that difference with a little bit more curiosity and an opportunity to learn more in that moment. So those are my slides. So my last thought was another important part of the work that we do here in diversity, equity, and inclusion is we support any initiatives that help create more clear communication and more fluid opportunities to be present collectively and understand each other. Bailey Fox is really integral to one of those initiatives, which is the restorative justice practice on campus. And so I just want to cede my time to Bailey so that Bailey can give you more information about what it means to engage in restorative practices and how it's done here at Bennington.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Sia. That was a really amazing slideshow. But as I mentioned before, I was a student and I did restorative practices throughout my time at Bennington as a student, and now as a staff, I also engage in that work. And I am not the only one. There's a ton of people who do this work on campus. We have the RJ Collective, which is a group of students that's facilitated by our wonderful faculty, Alyssa Del Tufo. Thank you so much, Chris. And Alyssa Del Tufo is our restorative justice faculty on campus. She has done this work for decades. She's started a bunch of different nonprofits in New York as well as in Vermont. And oral history is really important to her, as is PAR, which is research that's really driven by the people who have experienced any sort of harm, have experienced what we're researching. And so that's really important to her to have their voices be a part of that. And that's also really integral to restorative justice in general. As you can see from this little flower, the foundation of restorative justice is respect. And I would also add on to that dignity. All humans are deserving of dignity and respect. What are restorative practices? I kind of like to delineate between restorative justice and practices, even though they are kind of umbrella terms for each other, and they both definitely fall under each other. But to me, restorative justice is more responsive, whereas restorative practices are more preventative and more community building based. Restorative justice centers the people who have experienced harm. It's the most affected stakeholders. And restorative justice and practices are all community driven. So it doesn't work if there's not buy-in from the community. And so that little pyramid there starts off with tier 1, and that's community building. Tier 2 is harm and healing, and tier 3 is reintegration. So we're really focused right now on tier 1, which is community building. And as we really lay the foundation for this, we're going to move closer towards tiers 2 and tiers 3. And we have done some tier 2 work. It just depends on student wants and student needs. Restorative justice and restorative practices are centered around consent. And so if somebody does not want to engage in a restorative practice or restorative circles to address harm and to hold accountability for people, then we're not going to engage in it. But if people come to us and if all involved stakeholders want to participate in a circle, and if it's something that we do think is appropriate for restorative justice, then we will go ahead and help hold a harm circle for that. So we hired a couple of students for the summer who are doing restorative justice work. And we were really intentional about wanting to hire international students because the majority of students who stay over the summer are international students who can't go home. And so those students are tasked with working on community building. There's going to be a couple of different circles between international groups of students. And I'm going to be helping to teach these students who we hired how to run circles, as well as how to be really intentional within their community building. So even just thinking about, we've only had one meeting with them, but we already planned kind of a community building party, and that's happening tonight. They're going to be doing a fun grill out at the Perrin Creek Apartments, which is where all of our students are right now. And they're going to be really focused on building those relationships that are so necessary to have as a foundation before we move on to anything else, like holding people accountable or helping people accept responsibility. We're also working on educational materials. So restorative justice sometimes has certain misconceptions that tag along with it, like the idea that forgiveness is essential to it. Forgiveness is not essential to restorative justice. Sometimes it happens naturally, but not always, and it's never something that is required out of restorative justice work. We're also looking at our community standards so that we can add more restorative language into that booklet, and so that we can offer restorative alternatives resolutions rather than just going through a judicial panel or a judicial resolution. And on that last slide is the work that we're planning on doing for the fall. We're going to continue doing the work that we've already built, including doing weekly circles. The weekly circles have been going on since I was a sophomore. They've happened every single Sunday in the library, in Crosset Library. And we're hoping to include 2 weekly circles this upcoming year instead of just 1. And we're also going to be opening up what we've tentatively named as the RJ Clinic. But I think we've all in the RJ collective have decided that clinic might not be the right word for it. But it'll be a space where people can come to students, and it'll be a student-to-student, peer-to-peer sort of mentorship program that will help students engage in dialogue about harm that they've experienced, harm that they want to heal, offer the opportunity for restorative dialogues between students and people who they've caused harm to, people who have caused harm to them, And we're really interested in making sure that this is a student-driven program because it's for students, and having, I think it's just much more powerful for it to be a student-to-student program, and with the option of going to either myself or Alyssa Del Tufo for things that might be a little bit more challenging, or for things that there might be a conflict of interest in. So that's a lot of the work that we are planning for the fall that we're really excited about. We also want to get a web page out there on the Bennington College website so that it's easier to connect with us, and so that we have kind of like a button almost to request a circle. So we're also really excited to get that up and going. But that is what I have for you all about restorative justice. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask now. You can also always send me an email. My email is just my name, baileyfox@bennington.edu.
All right. Thank you so much, Bailey. Another thing that Bailey is really integral about Bailey maintains the Flow Pantry. So it's a pantry where we have food essentials that are like centrally located so students can access that. So another thing is a TAPA, which is a thrift store that we have on campus that we hope students can access, where they can get clothing items, like bedding, lamps, like small items. These are things that have been donated by students or community members, and so they're held in this space, and so students can have access to those things. We really are trying to be conscientious about our environmental impact here at Bennington, and so we want to access what we have before we go out and get things and bring more stuff onto campus and add to our carbon footprint. So please, ask, right? If you have a need, if there's something that comes up, ask anybody, and make sure that there's nothing that's silly, right? If somebody's like, I really need, like, I went to school in Western Mass. I'm originally from New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. And when I went to school, I couldn't find anywhere that sold hair care products that I could use. Completely frustrated. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I'm running around looking like a Q-tip because I can't find my hair care products here. And then, I asked the right people who knew the places that I could go to Springfield, and they're like, you can go these places and they can help you there. And so it's just, I know that this all feels overwhelming when you're in the moment. And I know that it can feel a little like disorienting, but let us help ground you. Right? We're committed and dedicated to that work, all of us. We all show up here to be points of reference and to help you get to where you need to be. And so I know that, you're burning with questions about DEI. What does DEI do? What is it? And I'd love to answer any of those questions. So please ask. We're here, and we'd love to hear from you.
Are there any questions that you frequently hear, CEO, during the school year or the school cycle?
Sure. So I think some of the questions that I hear from students are about, how to begin an affinity group. And so while that is like, there's a person in student life that does that, sometimes it's just asking around and connecting the dots, right? And then thinking about, like, when you're trying to create an affinity group for anything, let's say cosplay, right? Like, you're big into cosplay, you want to know, or you're saying like BIPOC cosplayers, right? I want to start a BIPOC cosplayers, group. So the things that I traditionally do is I connect you to the person in student life who can help connect you to the budget line and all those things. I also let you know where you can use, what spaces you can use, and how you can access spaces. There's a process to do that on campus. If you wanted to have like an initial mixer, I can help you set that up and figure out if we can support a small budget line to get you refreshments. So there's those kinds of things. And then on the more serious side, I've had students who come to me and ask about Title IX issues, or ask about like uncomfortable conversations, either with another person or with a faculty member or with a staff member. So I will be very, very transparent in this moment and say, I do not believe in call out culture. It's not generative. It doesn't help. It doesn't build community, but I do believe in calling people in And so I will work with students to work with the appropriate departments. We have a Title IX coordinator. We also have the restorative justice practice. And if it's two students who had a rapport and maybe don't want to have something so formal, I will also offer space and hold space to facilitate conversations. Because sometimes, there are misunderstandings, there are disagreements, right? We all move through this world and we have our own lexicon in our minds. And so what I'm trying to do is help people slow down the kind of speedy, angry, frustrated parts and get to the parts where we're like, okay, I see you and I understand where you came from, or I don't agree with you, and making decisions based on like more thoughtful conversation. So, it saddens me that people have negative experiences, but it's not unfamiliar. Again, I've had negative experiences in educational spaces. I've had people say things that were ham-fisted is a term that I've heard, like clumsy and not really thoughtful. I think that happens. The thoughtlessness is more, it's very rarely malice. It's almost always thoughtlessness that happens. And so just getting to a place where we can like be heard, have space held for us so that we can say what we have to say. But I do also work with the Dean of Faculty for any questions about, what does it mean to, be supported in my identity transition or those things. So, and we work with CAPS as well to help support. We are developing a trans resource guide for the campus. We also help students who need to know information about like, how do I change my pronouns? How do I do those things so that I can move through the world the way I want to move through the world? And Bailey also helps with that in student life. So those are kind of the things that we hear and we navigate in this space. Oh, we also hear things like, we want to have a pizza party. Can somebody help us get lots of pizza? We do that as well. There's fun here. It's fun and also, quiet time. We mix it up.
Thanks, Sio. We have a question, so I'm going to show it on stage.
That's a Bailey question.
Yeah, so I can answer that. The school typically does assign you a house. You can absolutely move. There's a 2-week waiting period where we ask that, a lot of times people have never roomed with anybody beforehand. And so we ask that you try and figure it out. If it's something that is a safety issue for you, like if you are sober and your roommate uses substances and it doesn't make you feel safe, it makes you feel like you might relapse, that's something that we can absolutely work with you on to make sure that you get moved before that 2-week period. You can also request a house through the housing questionnaire form that was on the new student checklist. I believe it was due by June 1st, but there's definitely some flexibility on that. So if you haven't filled that out yet, please go ahead and fill it out. If you've already filled it out and you've realized that there's a specific house that you want to be in, you can email housing@bennington.edu and they'll try and accommodate that request.
Yeah, so the only other thing I'd say is my office is located in the EAC, which is down the hill from Campus Safety, which is the little white house down the hill from Campus Safety. That is also where the ODI resource space is. It's right near health services. And so please come by and see me. Please make time to see me. I prefer to meet in person. That works better. I think we can get to know each other better that way. But, if you need to meet me via Zoom, always email, and I'm glad to make time to meet with any of you. And again, thank you all so much for being here today and for making time to hear, about the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Bennington College. I appreciate it.
Hello all, and welcome Bennington class of 2026. My name is Alfredo Medina, Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and College Diversity Officer. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I hear that you're in good hands, and I'm sure that you're going to enjoy the orientation that we have in store for you today. Bennington College is an institution that is committed to being both equitable and anti-racist, and ensuring that it is creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. I should know, I'm just celebrating 1 year since arriving at Bennington, and I can tell you that I had some trepidations myself. Coming to rural Vermont, being a person of color, somebody who self-identifies as a Black Latino, and working at a predominantly white institution, I walked around with a certain level of caution because I wanted to ensure that my identities were being honored. And I can tell you that a year later, I made the best decision of coming to Bennington. Bennington College is an institution that is truly committed to being anti-racist. And we go about doing that individually and collectively. Sense of community and our sense of belonging is what defines a Bennington education. That means that students of all walks of life are feeling affirmed and welcomed. And our diversity is different than many other institutions. While many institutions are measuring diversity around a barometer that is guided by ethnicity and race, we are one that not only values our ethnicity and race, but all the intersections of our identity. That includes everyone who comes with a different gender identity, their sexuality, be that trans, gay, non-binary, but also students of different religious identities. And where we pride ourselves is that we are a community that's built of both domestic and international students. So our diversity is celebrated every day, but we also understand that we all come from a different place and we're all along a different journey with different lived experiences. But Bennington, my hope, it will afford you the opportunity to continue to evolve as you learn more about yourself and in ways that we can work together to make this place not only distinct, but special and truly grounded as an institution that is about social justice. So welcome. You'll be in good hands with Xiomara Giordano, our Associate Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. She will be taking time to orient you to the work that we do here and in ways that you can show up as social justice change agents. So again, welcome. I look forward to meeting all of you on campus in the fall. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, we're more than happy to provide you with our email information. And there's no such thing as a dumb question, so feel free to ask anything. And I wish you the best with your orientation, and I look forward to seeing you in the fall. Please have a good day.
Thank you both, Sio and Bailey, so much for this session. Sio, would you like to end the session?
Yeah, again, thank you so much for everybody for coming. Please reach out. We look forward to meeting each and every one of you and getting to know who you are and who you will become while you're here at Bennington. There's no moment that is not a good time to talk to me about any of the things that you have questions about. Students with access issues, please be sure to reach out to either Bailey or myself, accessibility questions. There's two processes, one for academic accommodations and one for housing accommodations. And so please be sure that you're reaching out early, you're letting us know what you need and how we can be the place that you want to land and where you can be successful. And everybody else, just welcome, please. It's great to know you're coming. I'm super excited. So that's it. Have a great day.